All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Sister Wana. Good to see you in the building. Peace, peace. Bro Clarence, this is an important topic. Well done. Thank you, Sister Wana. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. How many of y'all know whose birthday it was yesterday? Oh, let me turn my stuff. Let me turn my stuff down over here.
How many of y'all know whose birthday it was yesterday?
Come on, how can I turn my stuff down over here? Come on,
turn my stuff.
Okay. There we go. We got it. We got it. We handling it a little better. Handling it a little better. All right. All right, y'all. You guys know whose birthday it was yesterday? Remember? They wouldn't uh they wouldn't make Martin Luther King they wouldn't have his birthday. So Stevie Wonder made a song uh commemorating Martin Luther King's birthday, and that kind of sparked the whole birthday situation. And I think Arizona was the last state to approve it, or Texas, one of them. And yeah, man, Martin Luther the King. Martin Luther the King. How much do you really know about Martin Luther the King, right? He was a non-violent activist trying to get civil rights. We're going to ask some uncomfortable questions out here today. We're going to ask some questions that you know, I don't know, man. You might not you might not be rolling with the car no more, man, because we're going to ask some tough questions. Today is a call-in show. I want lots of different people today. I don't want so much a panel as I want people to either give me questions in the chat or give me come up here on the panel, cam up, and ask your question, and then let's talk about it. I don't want to really. I'm not going to try to have a real big panel today, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. It was the 15th. Yes, the 15th. January 15th, 1929. That was the birth of Dr. Martin Luther King. Luther the King. Sister Wana, I know his real name was Michael. It was. He changed it to Martin. He changed it to Martin. I don't know. It doesn't say what was his purpose for doing that, but we all know about basically one of the guys that uh, had the fundamentalist Christian revolution over in England was Martin Luther, and maybe he was naming himself after that guy. Sounds like that's what that was about. Um, anyway, yeah. So anyway, he changed his name to Martin Luther, uh, and he was off to the races after that. Sister Enya, peace, Elder. Thank you, Sister Enya. Peace to you. Hope your day is going well. Hope Sister Wanda, hope your day is going well. So hope you sell 1,000 tacos today, and everybody else is having a great day. All right, let's do a little history about my man. Right? Let's do a little history about him. Dr. King, born January 15th, 1929, died April 4th, 1968, Memphis, Tennessee. Cause of death, assassination by gunshot. Holy smokes. Spouse, Coretta Scott. Children, 4 children, Yolanda, Martin, Dexter, and Bernice. Parents of Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta Williams King. Maybe he can name himself Martin Luther to honor his father. Who knows? Anyway, education. He got his BA from Morehouse. He's got his got another degree from Crozier Theological Seminary, and then he got his PhD from Boston University. His occupation was a Baptist minister, and he was known for the civil rights movement. Don't go away. We're going to talk about civil rights in just a minute. We're going to exactly find out what civil rights are. Awards. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964, the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously in 1977, Congressional Gold Medal posthumously. Let's see, 2004. Um, the guy did all kind of sermons and speeches. We all know that. Big campaigns, Montgomery boycott, most notably the Montgomery bus boycott. We're going to talk about that. Youth March for Integrated Schools. We're going to talk about that. Walk to Freedom. Uh, March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Selma to Montgomery marches. Chicago Open Housing Movement. March Against Fear. Memphis sanitation strike. That's when he really started getting in trouble with the Memphis sanitation strike. And the Poor People's Campaign. Whew, yeah. So we're gonna be referring back to a lot of this stuff about Dr. King because yikes. We celebrate his birthday, or some of us we just look at it as a day off. And then some of us looked at Dr. King as he was soft. Was he? Was Dr. King soft? Let's ask the question and investigate it. Let's investigate it. Dr. Martin Luther King was an American Baptist minister and activist who became the most visible spokesman and leader in the American Civil Rights Movement from 1955 until his assassination in 1968. Renamed after German reformer Martin Luther, King advanced civil rights through nonviolence and civil disobedience, inspired by his Christian beliefs and the nonviolent activism of Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah, Gandhi. Woo. That's another topic. He was the son of early civil rights activist and minister Martin Luther King Sr. All right, let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. Let's go to the chat real quick. Sister Wana, one day you're just gonna punch me in the face because I keep on forgetting to say Joanna. But anyway, I know the good doctor loved good home cooking. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? It's so easy to get men. I don't see why any woman has a problem getting men. Men are so easy. They're so simple. I feel sorry for women because a lot of these magazines really try to complicate how a man is. Men are so simple. Men are so simple. Men are simpler than pets. I mean, men are so simple. Good food, clean clothes, and sex on demand. You got it. You done. Keep yourself in an attractive to the man. Psst, you got it. You got it. Easy money. Easy money. Anyway, I know the good doctor love home cooking. Today I have barbecue meatloaf tacos and collard green tacos. Woo. Woo. You're about to get me to jump on a plane, Sister Juana. Sister Enya, in schools, they only tell us about the I Have a Dream speech. I know. That's why I'm doing this, Sister Enya. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing this. We're going to talk about Dr. King today. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly over here today. They don't speak about his last speech. No, they don't. No, they don't. And how it affected, it cost him his life. Sister Juana, Dr. King named his movement the Poor People's Movement, not the Black People's Movement, for a very important reason. Okay, Sister Juana, you tell me why. You tell me why. Sister Patrice, Sister OG Patrice, greetings and salutations. Always good. I'm always running around these YouTube streets. I see you everywhere, girl, dropping jewels everywhere. So glad that you, whenever you get a chance to stop in over here, peace to you. Peace to you. Sister Juana, his mother was assassinated, and he was stabbed in the chest by a Black woman. Yeah, he was. He was stabbed. I didn't know his mother was assassinated, but yeah, definitely he was stabbed for sure. Hold on, y'all. Just 1 second. Hold on. All right, y'all. All right, y'all. Sometimes I have my door closed, man. If my door is closed, I'm on the air. Don't bother me. And people will go straight to the door and knock. So I'm like, what the hell? What are you doing? All right. Yeah, I knew he got stabbed. I know his mother got assassinated. Sister Enya, I've been to the mountaintop speech. I've been to the mountaintop speech, April 3rd, 1968. Killed the next day. Oh yeah, right. But Sister Enya, we're gonna talk about it. It was on its way probably a year before that. It was on its way. Um, Sister OG Patrice, his other American speech in 1967 was profound. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're gonna get to all of this stuff. We're gonna get to all this. OG, one. Okay. Sister One, I love his drum major speech. He had a lot of good speeches. A lot of good speeches. Sister Enya, I have mixed feelings about King though. You know what? I have some on on his stance, not on him as a man. He was a soldier. I can't take that away from him. He was a straight up soldier. Anybody who could get their house firebombed and still continue rolling forward, I don't care what you say about him. He was still a soldier. Now I have some differences of opinion with him on some of his objectives that he was trying to reach, but as far as him being a soldier, no, he was a straight up soldier. I mean, you get your house firebombed, you get stabbed. You know what I'm saying? People, the FBI is telling you to calling your house, telling you to kill yourself, or we're gonna put this information out about you and these other women. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it. Then I mean, and you still stay in the game. You still stay in the game, man. I mean, he was a straight up soldier. He was a straight up soldier. So I can't take that away from him. Let's see. Sister Enya, hey. Let's talk about Black Life. Hey. Sit down, put up a chair so you can get some information today, sis. Because we about to go into our brother that was assassinated 50 something years ago. Sister Wanda, yes, he was a warrior for us. Yeah, he was a warrior for not only us, he was a warrior for everybody. In his mind, he was he was uh he was trying to help everybody. And unfortunately, that got him on the FBI's radar. Same thing happened to Fred Hampton. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton, the Chicago bureau leader of the Black Panther Party. You know, when they left him alone as long as he was working with the blacks and the Latinos. Once he started getting white people interested in the movement that they had down there, and white people started coming to their meetings, and white people started donating money. Ouch! It was on. Yeah, they decided that he had to go. Um, Sister Enya, to go through all that for integration, though. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it, y'all. We're gonna talk about it. So this is ML King. ML King. So I got some questions for y'all. I got some questions for y'all. Um, so let me go to my question. Uh, Sister OG Patrice, power to the people. Power to the people. Yeah, man. Shout out to Fred Hampton. Shout out to the Hampton family. Yeah. Yeah, man. That was a I don't know how they say, yeah, they were shooting at us. The police said they're shooting at us. But you look at the crime scene, it's 57 bullets going one way and no bullets going the other way. Ay, ay, ay. Sister Juana, I know about Brother Fred Hampton. Yeah, I mean, what happened to Martin Luther King was tragic, but Fred Hampton and Brother Malcolm those things was but those were those acts or will got us as blacks to say we have a better chance of defending ourselves running around as long as we stay in the individualism they intimidated us with those things, with those acts to accept individualism instead of the group thought, because if they can't control the group thought, then they would say no, they just disperse the group, right? They just knock off the head of the group, right? They show you how they're going to do the head of the group, and then the people just run in fear, right? Right? When they strung up Jesus, the disciples, they fell apart. Bam! They fell apart. They came back to themselves after a while, but I mean, they initially they fell apart, right? But it depends on how deep we are in this message. Okay, y'all, I got some questions for y'all. I got some questions for y'all, and I'll be referring back to as a matter of fact, you know what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna give you a little bit of MLK's last speech. I'm gonna give you a little bit of that. Let me give you a little bit of that because this is important. I want to give you a little bit of MLK's last speech, just a little bit. Let's see. Let's see. Did I do it? Oh, okay. Let me see. Yeah, man. Y'all hanging there with me because this is an important brother. We want to talk about the brother and make sure we hear from him.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop.
Okay, y'all. So this is Martin Luther King. We're gonna get back to him. We're gonna get back to that. So Sister Juana, you brought up Dr. King was ahead of his time. He even had a known homosexual running his campaign and public affairs. Yeah, that's no big deal. Here's the big deal. Bayard Rustin was not a good guy. Bayard Rustin is the guy you were talking about, and he was not a good guy. So, you know, being homosexual notwithstanding, we'd be saying the same thing if Bayard Rustin was a heterosexual man doing some of the stuff he got caught doing. So, you know, but you know, I feel like Bayard Rustin had some other agendas. So, and he tried to squeeze it into this situation here, and he got a lot of it off. So, but go look up Bayard Rustin, Bayard Rustin, Bayard Rustin. Not you know, I don't like to talk about dead people, but you know, he was not a good guy, and you know, and he had another agenda other than you know the people that had suffered at the hands of the U.S. government. So the most. Anyway, moving on. Sister Enya, I feel that the last speech he felt convicted and realized he led his people into a burning building. True conviction will overrule any agenda. You're right, Sister Enya, but like I said, he was a soldier. You know, I used to be on him. I used to be on him. We in the nation, we used to be on this dude, right? We used to be like, man, this is it. But then when you look back at it now as an older man and looking back at it as a deeper understanding of how can you not respect a man that had his house firebombed, he been stabbed, and he's still with the shit? How can you not respect that? You can't, I mean, you know, all these people say, you know, Martin Luther King was soft. Really? Would you stay on your square if somebody threw a firebomb in your house and your children and your wife was there? This man had angry mob of black people willing to go and tear Montgomery, Alabama up over that situation right there. And he could have let it happen, but he didn't. He stopped them. He told them all, go home. My family's safe, go home. He could have unleashed that mob, and they would have got mowed down eventually, but they would have took some heads with him, right? But he told them, go home. My family's safe, go home. I mean, who else would have did that? Would you have done that? I know I can't say that I would have done that. I can't say that I would have done that if my house had got firebombed. The FBI was calling my house, telling me to kill myself. The FBI was calling my wife saying I got mistresses all over the country, and they was doing all kind of different stuff. They was tapping my phones. They were flattening my tires. They used to flatten their tires, man. They go into do a meeting or something, and the FBI be out there flattening their tires. I mean, they used to do all kind of stuff to them, right? But we don't see, because he didn't ever come out and say all this stuff, because he didn't want to seem like he didn't want to put it out there. He was like, I'm gonna push on no matter what, right? Now, whether I agree with the direction he was going in, that's a different story. But I used to think of him as a punk. I'm just being honest. But I know this man ain't no punk, because this man, his house got firebombed and he was still with the business. He got stabbed and he was still with the business. You think that the first time he got assassinated, that wasn't the first assassination attempt? The FBI was calling him, telling him they had credible assassination attempts on his assassination plots against him. Hell, they had an assassination plot against him. Huh? So let's not take him not being a soldier. Let's all keep respect for the man, even though, because we're gonna get into the fact that, like you said, Sister Enya, maybe he was walking the people into a burning building. Let's explore that. Let's take a look at that. Sister Wana, I agree. Bay and Russia had issues. So did Dr. King. Yeah. But I think Dr. King's issues were able to be, the people could look at that and say, okay, I can deal with this. He's a man. There's women all over the country. I mean, y'all, I mean, imagine you are a man that is galvanizing the country. Not only the country, the world. I mean, everywhere you go, women are on you. Just think about Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson said when he was playing at the height of the LA Lakers Showtime, he said it'd be 8 or 9 women all hiding in his hotel room. They'd be waiting for him in the lobby of the hotel. They'd be hiding in the elevators. They'd be everywhere. They'd be everywhere. How many times can you say no to a bunch of beautiful women? How many times can you say no? No, I'm married. No, I'm married. And these women, I know you married. I know you married. Hell, I've been there. One time a woman came to me, this woman was beautiful. I said, I'm married. She said, I don't care. I don't care. Just make a little time for me. Just make a little time for me, and I'll be fine. I knew that was a lie, but I mean, I'm saying, that was just me. That's maybe happened maybe a couple of times in my life. Imagine if you out there and that's a daily occurrence for you. That's a daily occurrence. Women are coming up saying, I want you to impregnate me. I want to have your baby. I mean, how many times can you say no in 13 years? How many times? So we got to think about all the stuff. We're considering what Dr. King went through. We got to consider all of the stuff that he was going through. He was just a man. He wasn't last time I looked at him, he didn't have no chicken wings behind him. He was just a man, right? He was just a man. Sister Wanda, the nation, although I respect him, have no business criticizing Dr. King. They killed Brother Malcolm. Holy smokes, you got that backwards. You got that backwards, Sister Wanda. Your information is wrong on that one. Check it from somebody who definitely got the straight scoop on that one. No. You got that wrong. Although that is what the American press wanted you to think. That's not what actually happened. That's not what actually happened. some FBI agents did that, or some FBI informants pulled the trigger on that situation, and then they came out and recanted. They blamed another man too, and then they recanted all. I mean, that was an ugly situation, but that was directed by the FBI. Because like I said, about the nation with Malcolm, Elijah Muhammad told the whole nation, leave Malcolm alone. If he's doing something good, then it'll grow. Leave him alone. Take it from somebody who knows that, who was right there and hear that story from the horse's mouth. Sister Wanda, Bayer organized the March on Washington, a tremendous feat. Yes, but he tried to do what's happening now is based on his handiwork, which is the intertwine of the situation with Black people and the LGBT community, that situation being intertwined. Those were supposed to be two separate situations to deal with. But Bayard Rustin wanted all of that stuff intertwined together, and he intertwined all that stuff together because obviously he was homosexual, and he was trying to work it out so that, and I get it, but that was just a separate issue. It shouldn't have been mixed in with this issue. This was a different issue than the homosexual issue. So in my opinion, Sister Enya, I'm not saying that he wasn't a warrior. Thank you, Sister Enya. I appreciate that. You see where I'm going, right? I'm trying to make sure that we don't disrespect the man and say that because I did. I'm trying to make y'all not make the mistake I made back in the day, where I thought the man was soft until I grew as an individual in thinking, and I said, wait a minute, this dude, man, who can say house fire bomb and still say, I mean, the average Black person get their house fire bomb, they're going into work the next day saying, that's it. Here's my resignation. I'm done. I'm done. No more fire bombs for me, thanks. I'm good. No more stabbings for me, thanks. I don't need the FBI threatening my house. I was heavily, very active in the Nation of Islam. Very active. Okay. I used to have an FBI agent in front of my house for 2 years. This guy followed me around for 2 years. 2 years. Every time I go outside, I take the trash out of something, I see the guy sitting there. How do you know, Clarence? How do you know he's the FBI? First of all, I could tell it was an unmarked car. I mean, they want you to know sometimes. A lot of times, they want you to know they're out there. Just like you seen the movie Casino or Goodfellas, they want you to know they're out there. They'll sit in front of your house, right? And so they was out there. And, but it was a white guy. My neighborhood is just Blacks and Mexicans mostly. A few whites, but I mean, they're so sporadic. You'll notice any different white people, you will notice them. And this dude used to sit in front of my house. I'm like, why is this dude sitting in front of my house? But, eventually I caught on to what was going on. But I wasn't doing nothing at that time for him to be trying to, but, they do what they do. They watch people. Sister Wanda, I love Nina Simone's tribute to Dr. King. Beautiful. Yeah. And Stevie Wonder did a good one, too. Stevie Wonder did good. Sister Wanda, hold up. The guy confessed in prison years later. I've seen the interview. Yeah. But find me the part where he said that he was directed by Elijah Muhammad to go and do that. You will never find that. You'll never, I don't care. Go look at this interview. Find it and you say, here, I was directed by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to go and assassinate Malcolm. You'll never see that. Never, ever, 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 ever. And if you do, send me the link and let's watch it together. All right. So, So let's finish up watching a little bit of Dr. Martin Luther King's last speech.
Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Oh, let's see. We got April 4th. What happened? There it is. There it is. That was an ugly situation as well, right? That's an ugly situation as well.
This is a CBS News.
Okay, so we know what happened. They assassinated the brother. All right. All right, y'all. Sister Wana, I didn't say he was directed by Elijah Muhammad. I said the nation, probably the son. No, no, no. Nobody within the nation, because they had strict orders not to. No, no. They had strict orders not to touch him or his family. Strict orders. Why would anybody disobey Yahweh Elijah Muhammad just to get at Malcolm? Malcolm wasn't worth that. Well, Malcolm wasn't worth the what you was gonna have to deal with going against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He wasn't worth that to nobody. I don't think. Only those guys that was caught up dealing with the FBI. They was the only ones that had something to gain by getting involved with that situation. But like I said, they was the front men for the FBI's plot against Brother Malcolm, because Brother Malcolm had the same situation. Do you know why Brother Malcolm was killed? Most of y'all don't know why Brother Malcolm was killed. Think he was killed because he was talking about black people. No. Brother Malcolm went to the UN. He said, "Are you trying to get civil rights from the American government? What is civil rights? There is no such thing as civil rights. You don't need no civil rights. What you need is human rights." So Brother Malcolm went to the UN and said, "Hey, these people that's saying that they so holy and they're a Christian nation, this is what they're doing on the streets of America to black people just because they're black." That's what he was going to go do. So he was going to go to the UN and charge America with human rights violations. That's why Brother Malcolm got killed, because he was preparing to do that. And once they saw that he was serious and he was getting love all over the world, people respected him and his position, and he was getting the ears of the world. Got to go. They tried to poison him in Egypt. They wouldn't let him land in France because they knew something was going to happen in France. I mean, the FBI followed him all over when he went to his Hajj. They followed him all over everywhere. Mecca, they followed him all over the place. So we got to know. See, that's why I do some of these shows, because we got to know our history. Sister Inya, the 50s and the 60s and maybe the early 70s seemed like a lot of leaders were coming up. It must have been a great time for black people seeing so much leadership. You know what, Sister Inya? It was. The problem was many of them were in the situation that Brother Martin Luther King was in, and the Brother Martin Luther King was in a situation where he was Sister Wanda. I hope you got my email, girl. Think it over, and let me know what you think about that. Yeah, a lot of our people, a lot of our brothers and sisters that became in good leadership, they got redirected. That's what we're going to talk about Dr. Brother Martin Luther King. We're going to talk about being redirected. The brother got redirected from what should have been going on to what he actually made going on. Sister Inya, you remind me so much of my father. He used to give us so much jewels about that time. Yeah, man, it was a good time, because we had a lot more togetherness than we do now. When I say we, I'm talking about black people in particular. The country was, it was. I'd say it like this: there were places you knew not to go, where you were running into white people that were averse to black people. There was places you knew where to go, Mississippi, Tennessee. There were places you knew where not to go. Some of the places, down in Alabama, down, especially down in the South, you knew where where you wasn't supposed to be, at night, because you knew, right? But now it's not like that no more. You know what I mean? Now it's a more of a subtle thing now. Where before it was out in the open. The people like that felt like that, white people that felt like that, they were much more out in the open with it. But now it's a much more subtle thing, much more subtle for those that feel that way. Sister Enya, yes, sundown towns, right? I have the book, right? Yeah, we gotta watch out. You gotta watch out. Okay, so we talking about our brother, Dr. King, right? Good brother, right? Let me pull him back up, because I want you to see this man. I want you to see this man. I want you to see this man. It's our brother. It's our brother, right? I want you to see him. You know what I mean? All right. So, okay, so did he have issues with the FBI? Of course he had issues with the FBI, right? Hold on. I got a couple of different. Let me run through these chats real quick. Sister Wana, I'm grateful that you know the truth about Brother Malcolm was killed. I have more to say about it. I'll wait to cam up. Okay, no problem. Too many words to type. Okay, Sister Wana, we'll discuss it. Let me get all the stuff about Dr. King out first, because that's who I actually want us to remember at this point. Sister Enya, I think it's still like that. I'm going to those towns. Be careful. Not okay, Sister Enya. Not yeah. Be careful out there. Be careful out there. I know it's a lot of white people that are not like that, but a lot of them, there's still some that are out there. So be careful out there. Be careful out there. All right. So let me read y'all something. Let me read y'all something about Dr. King. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, began monitoring Martin Luther King in December of 1955 during his involvement with the Montgomery bus boycott, and engaged in covert operations against him throughout the 1960s. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover was personally hostile toward King, believing that the civil rights leader was influenced by communists. Remember, they were calling him a communist. First thing they called him a militant. They called him a militant, then they called him a radical, then they called him a communist. Labels are something, ain't they? Labels are something. Labels are something. And many of these white Democrats, which they used to call them Dixiecrats, but their white Democrats were getting elected by scaring white people, saying that if you let Martin Luther King keep going the way he's going, pretty soon you're gonna have to eat next to a black person in a restaurant. You're right. Ay. My mother graduated high school in 1962. Straight A student, magna cum laude, straight A student. She went walking around Pennsylvania. She couldn't find a job nowhere. Because back then they would have signs in the window: no dogs, Mexicans, or niggers working here. That's what they would have signs in the front door, in the front window. No dogs, no Mexicans, no niggers. So my mother went walking down the street, and they had the Army recruiter sign was out there, and she said, "Hey, let me join the Army, because if I stay here, I don't want to end up pregnant and living in the projects with everybody else." Because my mother grew up in the projects in Pennsylvania, but she didn't want to end up like that, so she joined the WACs. That's how my mom ended up in the Army. My father got drafted, but my mother ended up in the Army because there just wasn't no they wouldn't give you opportunity. I don't care how good you were of a student you was. It wasn't about that. It was like they had this thing about how they would, and that was up in the North, but they had this thing about blacks and whites working together. They didn't really want that. They just didn't want the South to have an economy that was overrunning with workers that will work for nothing. Sister Wanda, I'm grateful that you know the truth about Buckman. Oh, okay, I got that one already. Okay, I got that. Oh, okay. So I'm good. Okay, so let's finish reading about the FBI. This animosity increased after April 1964 when King called the FBI completely ineffectual in resolving the continued mayhem and brutality inflicted upon the Negro in the Deep South. Under the FBI's domestic counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, King was subjected to various kinds of FBI surveillance that produced alleged evidence of extramarital affairs, though no evidence of communist influence. Holy smokes. The FBI initially monitored King under its Racial Matters program, which focused on individuals and organizations involved in racial politics. Although the FBI raised concerns as early as March 1956 that King was associating with card-carrying members of the Communist Party, King's alleged ties with the communism did not become the focus of the FBI investigations under the existing communist infiltration program designed to investigate groups and individuals subject to communist infiltration until 1962. In February 1962, Hoover told the Attorney General Robert Kennedy that Stanley Livingston, one of King's closest advisors, was a secret member of the Communist Party. In the following months, Hoover deployed agents to find subversive material on King, and Robert Kennedy authorized wiretaps. Robert Kennedy, remember, they were shaking things. They was telling black people, "Oh yeah, we with you." The Kennedys, right? The Kennedy brothers, they were saying, "We with you, right? You put John Kennedy in office, right? They say, "Oh, we with you." Robert Kennedy signed off on the wiretaps for Martin Luther King. And Robert Kennedy authorized wiretaps again on King's home and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference offices in 1963. See, all you know is this man. All you know is I had a dream. They don't tell you how hard they used to do this man. They did this man hard. Imagine you get your house firebombed. The FBI is out there flattening your tires, siphoning out your gas. You know what I'm saying? Loosening your brakes. They're out there doing all kind of stuff to these men. And they still stand with the fight. They still with it. We ought to give Martin Luther King a salute, man, just for being a soldier. OG Patrice, Brother Clarence, be careful using too many N words and K words, etc. YouTube is cracking down hard on the content creators. Thank you, sis. Appreciate you. Yeah, I need somebody watching me. I need you guys to watch my back because sometimes I get too caught up. I get too caught up. Sister Wanda, Democrats are the devil. They still tricking black folks. Okay, Sister Wanda, you're gonna have to come up and explain that one. Explain it. So I'm gonna put the link out. And anybody has questions, anybody want to talk about it, let's talk about it. You know, you had a safe place to talk about it. And if you want to ask some questions and get some information, your little brother's got some information for you. You know what I mean? A lot of information I got, you know what I mean? But I'm not out there saying I know everything, but I got a few nuggets. I like Sister OG Patrice, Sister Wanda. I got a few nuggets I got in here. Y'all can come and get it. You know what I'm saying? Sister OG Patrice.
What's good, bro, Clarence? How are you? Can you hear me loud and clear?
Man, you sound fine like wine, Sister Patrice. What's going on with you? What is happening?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm blessed. I mean, I'm able to talk about my brother and straighten out some stuff about him and make sure that when we look at him in the right way and not look at him as, just a dude that just was saying speeches and marches. He was a soldier. You know what I mean? I may not agree with the direction of what he was doing, but he was a straight soldier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to disrespect, those leaders back then, would definitely not be, a very mannerable thing to do. I think, whether you agree with everything that they did or said or policies or things that they did make a difference in America. So, just to say just to honor and salute um, the things that they did do, I
Right,
think is important, and to always, um, always honor and celebrate that as because we wouldn't have gotten as far as we did had we not had those leaders. So, with all due respect, for sure.
right, right. Thank you for that, Sister Patrice. Sister Juana, are you in the building? Oh man, she even cammed up for us. She even cammed up for us. Sister Juana, what's going on with you, girl?
Only for you, bro, Clarence.
I sure appreciate you. I sure appreciate you. You and Sister
And
Patrice.
I want to piggyback on what Sister OG Patrice said. No matter what these people have done in their lives, it does not take away from what they've contributed. Phenomenal people have helped bring us, where we are right now, and they deserve the utmost respect.
Man.
Dr. King was a phenomenal thinker, a phenomenal human being, extremely intelligent. Just because he liked the women doesn't make him a bad guy,
No.
Just because he, was a borderline socialist doesn't make him a bad guy. America is half capitalism and half socialist. That's why you have Social Security. That's why you have a lot of these programs. America is all about, people going out and working for their wealth, but they also believe in taking care of people in dire need. So, I stand up for Dr. King. And like you said, I agree. I agree. He was a warrior. Some people don't like that he was a Christian.
Right.
I don't have an issue. I didn't have an issue with him being a Christian, even when I was an atheist. So I agree with Sister OG Patrice on that. Let's get it straight. We're not here to vilify Dr. King. We're here to honor him. But as we honor him, it's okay for us to have a conversation. And some people are put off by difficult conversations. I'm not put off by difficult conversations. I have a past. We all have a past. We all have a few skeletons in our closet. They're just not on Front Street.
Right.
And I appreciate you, Brother Clarence, because you're willing to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah. And I'm here for that. And whenever you have a specific question for me, although you did ask me a specific question about why I said what I said about the Democrats, but I don't want to derail your show. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for you to ask me a specific question, okay, brother?
Okay, appreciate you. Thank you, Sister Juana, because I do want to answer some other questions first. Salute to Knowledge and Relationships. If you guys haven't already subscribed to Knowledge and Relationships, go over there, check them out. Brother M3, Brother Mr. Best in the world. They are doing big things over there at Knowledge and Relationships. Go check them out and subscribe to them. All right, y'all. Ladies, since you ladies came up here, I got questions for y'all. My first question, was Martin Luther King a person fighting for human rights, or was he about the bag and the honeys, as the FBI claimed he was? What is y'all interpretation of him?
Well, I heard more about him fighting for human and civil rights for our people more than I did about the bag and honey.
Okay.
So I can't speak uh, that much about the bag and the honeys because I don't think I was born when he was assassinated. What year was he assassinated in? Was it 63?
68.
68? Oh yeah, I was born. Okay, I was a little girl though. But I heard more about the fighting that he did for us, for human rights, for civil rights, just to be treated equal equality. I heard more about that than I did about the bag and the honey. So, in my humble opinion, I would definitely say, I believe that it was infiltrated through the government always to perpetuate the negative and the bad and the ugly and the indifferent, right? Because back then that's all they wanted to do was make people that look like us look bad in a light to people, to have our own people against us. So what way to
Right.
do that? And in a lot of ways they became successful even to this day.
Right.
They have a way of, COINTELPRO, they have a way of turning our own people against us. And people that do that are the ones that sell out and take the bag and do all the other stuff. So to judge a man, uh, a man that were humanly by the flesh weak as all human beings are, does not mean he was inhumane. It
Right.
just means he was a man
Right.
that made mistakes,
Right.
that had faults and flaws, like we all do as human beings.
Right.
So who am I to judge or cast the first stone? I can't do that. But what I do know is the life-changing effects that he had on his people, on the world in its entirety. And that to me should stand out more than anything else. The bags and the honeys, I'd say, I heard he was a ladies' man or whatever. I don't know anything about him getting so much money because he didn't live this flamboyant, wealthy life like people think
Right.
he did. So I don't, again, I think a lot of that is a facade. And I'm not
Okay.
going to sit here and say, as a great orator and as a great activist and leader for our people, that he should not have been paid
Of
for
course.
his speaking debates. Of course, he should have been paid. Look at some people that is earning money in certain industries now that to me ain't even deserving of it because they don't have a talent at all. But it's happening.
Right.
So so to say even back then, that he should not have been paid for speaking engagements, I
Yeah.
think wouldn't be fair because when he first started out, he wasn't getting paid at all. He was
Right.
going around doing a lot of
You
things
there?
for free and speaking up for our people.
Getting paid in
So
fried chicken and cornbread.
yeah, they would. Yeah, what I mean, he would spend the night at people's houses
Right.
like regular folk, and
Right.
they would feed him, and he would do
Right.
these speaking engagements at
Yeah.
churches and at functions and different things. He wasn't getting
You wouldn't
paid
get no
then.
money.
Nobody
Yeah.
complained about a bag then.
Yeah.
You
You
know what I
wouldn't get no
mean?
money.
So, but this is us, right? We
Yeah.
love to do that. We love to
Yeah.
prejudge and unfairly so a lot of times. I mean, he was a human being, as is Malcolm X and the rest of them. So
Right.
no, I would say, in my humble opinion, he definitely was fighting more for human and civil rights for our people than the bag and the honey. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right on. All right, Sister Wanda, what say you?
Hey, brother Clarence.
Hey.
About I have already said that Dr. Martin Luther King was a man. Okay,
Right.
he was a man. He wasn't a saint. He was a man,
Right.
and nothing can take away, in my humble opinion, from what he did for this nation and what he
Right.
did. I want to speak to what Sister OG Patrice just got through talking about. When we talk about what they did, when we talk about what, and I'm assuming talking about so-called white people, what they did to and what you spoke about the Kennedys did,
Yeah.
having him followed around and intimidating him and all this.
Yeah.
These are Democrats is what I want to hit on. It's so, to me, misguiding to just throw out, what white people did. Be specific, because here in the South, we all know there's certain white folks. We know this. I live in the South most of all my life. There's certain white folks. And when you talk about what white folks did, we're talking about Democrats. And I want everybody who can hear the sound of my voice say to hear this.
Hey.
Look up your history. Don't just say white people. Don't allude to they and not be specific. Democrats did this to Dr. Martin Luther King, okay? And the other thing about, I think, now repeat your question, because I'm not sure I understand the phrasing of it, about the loose women or...
No, okay, here, I'll ask it again. Was MLK a person fighting for human rights, or was it all just about the bag and the honeys? Like, what?
And here's another thing. Okay, here's another thing. Sister OG Patrice, you said, he was, Dr. King was for civil rights and human rights. Well, this is what Brother Clarence already alluded to earlier in his program. Civil rights and human rights are different things, sister. My sister, my beloved sister. And that's what Brother Clarence was just stating. That's what Brother Clarence was. I'm outside, so I can't hear you all very well, and that's why I'm yelling. But Brother Clarence, that's what he was talking about. That what Malcolm was coming to the UN talking about F civil rights, and I still say F civil rights, but black people are always about their civil rights. Civil rights is not where it's at. It's about human rights. Okay, and now I'm not confident in speaking on whether or not Dr. King was this idea to coin civil rights. I think that was more of a LGB type situation, President Lyndon Baines Johnson type situation. Dr. King was about poor people, which included all kinds of folks, and they didn't like that. They want to keep so-called white people and so-called black people separate. But when Dr. King started talking about poor people, which didn't allude to black people at all, he was including all people who were being subjugated economically. Then it was an uproar, and then he doubled down. He doubled down and started talking about the Vietnam War and how outrageous that was, which it was. It was the stupidest war America's ever engaged in. But when he went and talked about the war, which was against President Johnson, oh, it was over. Like Brother Clarence said to Sister Inyan's point about, he gave the speech on April 3rd, but killed on April 4th. They already had planned on killing him, my love, years before that, because of him speaking out on the Vietnam War and him trying to get so-called black people and so-called white people on the same program, like we used to be, because we didn't always used to be against each other. I get tired of this black-white argument as if there's a clear-cut division. There isn't. It was the Democrats who wanted slavery. It was the Democrats who didn't want to end slavery. It was the Democrats who benefited from Jim Crow laws and created Jim Crow laws. It was the Republicans who fought for the Union side to end slavery under the direction of President Lincoln, who was a Republican. And most Christians used to be Republicans. But see, you don't learn that in history. Most black people used to be Republicans, as was Dr. Martin Luther the King.
All right, y'all. I mean, wow. Wow, y'all, man, y'all got me. Y'all got me. I mean, wow. I mean, let me tell y'all my position on this. My position is, was MLK a person fighting for human rights, or was he about the bag and the honeys? Obviously, I agree with Patrice, and I also, Sister Juan, I think y'all saying the same thing, but then y'all breaking down the question a little even, Sister Juan, and breaking it down even a little deeper than what we were asking, which was, and I'm gonna get to civil rights over human rights. I'm gonna get to that. But was he?
I just want to say the only reason why I brought that up because there was some civil rights lawsuits during that time, and he also stood up for those people that had those lawsuits at that time. I know the difference between civil rights and human rights, but he had to be for civil rights if civil rights were broken for Black people back then, and he helped them fight those cases as well. So that's why I said what I said.
No, I understand. I
No, I
understand.
just want to be clear, so that the people in the chat can understand because I know the difference between the two. So I want to make sure that they knew that, what I was speaking.
Okay. I mean, you can let them know. I already know. Well, I know we're gonna get into it later. I already know. You know what I mean? We're gonna get into it later because I got a specific question that deals with that. All right. So, but as far as MLK fighting for human rights, I believe, when a man gets his house firebombed and he's still with the program, when a man gets stabbed and he's still with the program, when the FBI is letting out the air out of his tires and siphoning out his gas and, calling his wife and making death threats and telling him to just go delete himself, they're calling this house. I'm talking about the U.S. government is doing this, let alone the KKK and other organized groups. But the U.S. government is doing this from the FBI's office. They're doing this. So I mean, and the man is still with the business. You got to say, hey man, it's something other than the bag and the honeys is out there. Yeah, we see sometimes as Black people, we always looking for a hero and we want a hero. And so a man steps up and he takes on that role and we put him in that role, right? He ain't got no chicken wings behind his back, but we put chicken wings on his back and we say, oh, because he's fighting for us in this fight, then we're going to regard him as a person that does no ill, and but we forget this is just a regular man. Like I said before, how many times can you say no? You got women all over the country, all over the world saying, I want to be impregnated by you. I'll do whatever you say. Just touch me. Just talk to me. Just take me in. Listen, I mean, how many times can you say, no, I'm married. How many times? That's how all these actors get caught up. That's all, people think, oh, these men are just,
come on, Brother Clarence. Dr. Martin Luther King was knocking those white women down when he was in college. Come on.
But I'm saying, how many times can you say, I'm good? This is what I want. I can't verify that, but I'm not denying it at all. You're probably right. But I'm saying, how many times when you get married is a whole nother situation, Sister Juana. So when you in that situation, how many times can you say no? And you got all these women that look like nothing you ain't never seen. You from Montgomery, Alabama. You ain't never seen
Brother Clarence, he never stopped saying yes to those women when he was young. Come on now, let's keep it real. I'm not vilifying Dr. King. You know my stance on all of this. I know you do. But let's not create a narrative where he was just hounded by these women. He was a hound dog in college.
No, I'm not saying that I'm saying that at the point where he was married and he decided, hey, I'm going to just be with the wife, he may have had a different outlook in being.
He married Coretta for other reasons. He married Coretta for the reasons why we're all supposed to be married. It ain't got shit to do with love. It's got to do with building something. It's got to do with commitment. It's got to do with creating successful families. Okay.
Whenever, okay,
Coretta was an accomplished woman in her own right, but he didn't marry her. He never stopped being with the women. Is all I'm trying to say. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like they had to beat his door down. He had the door open.
I'm not saying that he did. All I'm saying is
Always.
many men get caught like that. Many men get caught like that, and that's usually the situation. I'm not saying it's every situation. It might not be the situation with Dr. King, but it is a situation when you have a man that's out there and it's out there in the front, and he's a handsome guy. You know, he's a good looking dude, and he can talk well. You know, he got to get the gab, and you know, and people love him, and people are crowding around him and everything. Women are attracted to that, and so even if he was on it like that, now he's gonna have even bigger group of people coming at him because he's on Front Street and everything. So that's all I'm saying, and it's gonna be more difficult. Maybe he said, okay, if I'm getting married, I used to do my thing in college, but now I'm married, I'm gonna try to slow it down. And then this situation comes up. Somebody keep calling me. Anyway, yeah, this situation keeps coming up. So then what does he do? What can he do? I mean, eventually you're gonna get, it's like you get tired of saying no, I'm married, I'm this and that, and then people tell you, I don't care if you're married. I don't care if you're married. Just give me a few minutes in the hotel. Just give me a few minutes in the elevator. Just give me a few minutes here. Just give me a few minutes there. It can happen. It can happen. So, but that's that question, because I think we all agree that his main focus was to try to improve things for Black people and all people as a whole. But you know, since we was right there as when he say poor people, I mean, we were the poorest. We in you know, per capita. So he was obviously trying to deal with our situation preliminarily, and then ultimately everybody's situation. But let me ask you ladies another question.
Brother Clarence. Brother Clarence, before you ask that other question, before we move on,
breaking up,
Joanna, you breaking up bad.
To know,
Joanna, you breaking up bad.
Because you made a point of saying, I agree with
Joanna, Sister Joanna, you breaking up bad.
Sister OG Patrice.
I don't think she hear us.
Oh,
what
no,
is
yeah,
it? How about
she's breaking up bad. She don't
Can
hear
you hear us, Sister Joanna?
You might need to get another location, Sister Joanna, because you breaking up real bad. I can see you, but
can you hear us?
Okay, we can't hear you.
She can hear us, but you real choppy.
Yeah. We can't hear
we
you
didn't
at
hear
all.
We didn't hear what you were asking because it was chopping up.
Okay, so hold that question, Sister Wanda. Hold that question. I'm going to ask this question, and you can get back in here and answer that question for us. Okay, you can ask that question. Okay, I got another question for y'all. Did Martin Luther King help the Black economy by boycotting white businesses, and if so, how? Sister Patrice, the point of the let's just take the Montgomery bus boycott. Let's just take that boycott for example. The point of that boycott was to get the government to realize that the separate but equal situation wasn't separate but equal. Sister Wanda, you there?
How do I sound now?
Oh, you sound perfect. Perfect. I'll let you ask your question before I ask my question. Go ahead and ask your question.
Well, thank you, Sister OG Patrice, for having my back. I want to say that, number one, for letting me know that my sound was choppy. You all know I'm always operating from the cell phone, so you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, we want you to get your full statement out, you know.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, sister.
You're welcome.
So I just wanted to ask Brother Clarence a quick question before he went on to his other questions for us.
Okay.
And it is completely okay because this is what dialogue is about. But I want to ask him. He specifically said he
chopping up again.
Agrees with
Sister
You
Joanna, you
chopping up
chopping up
again.
again.
the OG Patrice.
Sister, you just chopped up again.
I humbly would like to ask.
Yes,
Whew.
now she fell off. It's probably best she go out and come back in. Maybe it'll be a
Yeah,
better
yeah.
reception.
She gonna come back.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me finish with you, Sister Patrice, because man, your time is really valuable. Hers is too, but man, I see you all over the place. So I gotta ask you these questions while I got you, sis. Did MLK help the black community by boycotting white businesses, and if so, how? So we were talking about the Montgomery bus boycott. The point of the bus boycott was not so much the bus company itself, but the point was to get the government to do what they did and do the Civil Rights Act of I think was it 57? No, it wasn't 57. 64, 1964. They had to push the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which said that desegregated public places and et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So that was more about the 56 ruling of the Supreme Court that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional.
Correct.
And
Correct.
that boycott lasted for 381 days, and it ended
Correct.
successfully. But I think his house got bombed after that, so they wasn't happy. Anything that was a success that was done by him and those people back then that was a success. Of course, angered the white counterparts that didn't like it, the white businesses that suffered
Right.
when blacks didn't give them their business. I think probably today, if we could be so faithful to abide by that same rule without falling under like they didn't for 381 days, imagine what we could do right today with our economy.
Yeah,
Just
man.
imagine that. So
Yeah.
when you ask me that question, look at the power they had back then, and it lasted. That's over a year that they did not
Yeah.
buy from them.
Yeah.
And and look how angry they became. Look how the value of the dollar even back then were for them, as far as a lot of quote unquote poor people. And
Yeah.
imagine the economy that we have and the buying power that we have now if we did something like that. Imagine that.
Yeah. 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 That's kind of what I want to go into. Like, because although the boycott eventually was successful in letting us go and spend our money with white businesses, however, what did it do to the black businesses? What happened to the black businesses after we felt like, hey, this is a cut above. We now we made it by being able to shop in the white businesses. Now we just go shop in the white businesses. What happened to the black businesses?
They fell asunder for the most part.
Mm.
A lot of them did.
So
It hurt.
so why did we
It
let that happen, sis? Why did we let that happen? Is it that we
for,
didn't notice it
for
was going on,
for
or
the
that we
same reason we let it happen now, because we bought into, and this is one of the things that I think that the more he realized it, as time progressed, the more he realized that he made a big mistake. I mean, even now, we would we would buy more into other racial counterparts businesses at the suffering of our own people's businesses. We just will do that right now. So I know times are different, and modern technology and all that have a lot to do with stuff, but um, yeah, I think he realized that it was a big mistake. Like I said, that whole I think he came to realize that he may have made a mistake with the whole segregation thing, and wanting to say no, maybe I made a mistake, and I'm thinking about this now, and to bring us all together probably was a big mistake because it made it worse for black people. That's just my thought on it.
Okay, I'll hit back on that. Sister Wana, are you there?
How's my sound?
Now you sounding good. You were doing good up until you started asking the question. That's when you started chopping up again.
I think when I cam up, my phone can't take it.
Ah, okay.
But I agree with Sister OG Patrice's point. I was able to hear. I can hear you all very
Okay.
well.
Good.
Oh, okay, that's good. I'm glad you can hear us, sis.
Yeah, I could hear you. I just couldn't talk to you.
Right, yeah, we don't want you to, I want to hear your points and your comments and views, so I definitely wanted you to get everything out.
But I agree with you, sister. He see, that's why I said earlier, I don't think this whole civil rights thing was his personal agenda. I think that was someone else's agenda, but things were rolling along so quickly that, you know, now you had other people coming on board all about these civil rights. So it's almost like he had to continue. But to answer Brother Clarence's question, why did we, to his point, and Dr. Claude Anderson spoke on this before. We had bus lines. We had taxi services. We had hotels and restaurants. We keep talking about the Oklahoma 1920 situation. That was all over America. There was all kinds of so-called black towns all over. We didn't have to integrate with anybody. What Dr. Martin Luther King was against was really prominent about was because they kept in the South, they kept killing black folks under these Jim Crow laws. Other than that, black folks had land. Sister OG's grandma had land. It was the Democrats who took it. Okay? Dr. King had to speak up. White folks and black folks, they were separate and they were fine. But it was the Democrats in the South who could not handle that, who could not handle black people having land and businesses. And it was poor. I hate using these type of words, but it's not my word. I didn't create the word. But it was poor white trash people who burned down Tulsa, who burned down what is it, Redwood or
Rosewood.
Whatever that town in Florida was, and then the
Rosewood.
towns in North Carolina, it was poor haters, poor white haters. So just let me be clear on that. Dr. Martin Luther King got in the game because they was killing poor. That's why he named it the Poor Black People's Campaign. They was killing poor black people. There was rich millionaire black people in this time who were unaffected by all this Jim Crow segregation stuff. That's why I want people to really delve down into their history. We had millionaires then like we do now. We'll never have as many as so-called white people because we're only 12 to 14% of the population. We've always been that number. But out of those numbers, we had our own, in our own right, our own wealthy, middle class, and poor black people. But Dr. Martin Luther King, who was middle class, he wasn't rich. He was middle class, and and he was in the South, in Atlanta, and they were killing black folks. They was killing poor black folks. And that's why I want to be clear. They was killing poor black people.
You know what? I hear you saying the poor.
Agree. I
know they were killing poor, but I don't want to just. I can't. I don't think they were just killing poor black people.
Not just poor, but overall, her overall statement, like she's right, because back then they were the Dixiecrats. That's what they were called.
That's what I was going to get to.
Which were Democrats. Because let's be real, Republicans were black. Blacks were Republican back then, whether they were middle class or upper elites, the wealthy back then, they were Republicans. So she is right. She's right
Yeah,
about that. But not only were they killing poor blacks, they were killing middle class blacks too, because Medgar
yeah.
Evers was a middle class black man
That's what
that
I
was
wanted to put
murdered.
out there.
So in
That's what I
Mississippi.
wanted to
So
put out there.
absolutely.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. But they killed him because he was speaking up again, like Dr. Martin Luther King. He was speaking up for poor blacks.
Yeah,
See,
everybody,
see, see,
everybody.
see, they wanted a subclass to build wealth off of. And there were poor blacks and poor whites and poor Hispanics, not too many poor Asians, but Germans and Italians and Irish. They was hanging them up too, but see, you don't see them in the history books, but they was hanging up Hispanic people by the droves. Now these are people in the South doing this. White folks in the South, they were killing Hispanics. They was killing Irish folks. They was killing Jewish people by the droves. And so some people had to stand up against this, But I wanted to ask you, Brother Clarence, what is it that I said initially that you disagreed with?
You made a comment. Let me go find
We
the comment.
gotta let me say something first. We gotta use the word delete or deletion, because we using the K word too much. I don't want you to get striked, Brother Clarence.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we gotta
You guys,
say that.
thank you, Sister Patrice, for having the calmness of the head to remind us, because me and Juana, we get all crazy. So we need somebody to have their head on straight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister OG. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no
Okay.
problem.
Sister Wanda, I said I didn't disagree with you. I didn't agree with you. You made a statement. The Democrats are the devil. They're still tricking black folks. So what I wanted you to do is, because we don't have a lot of people in here now, but trust me, a lot of people will watch this on the playback. So what happened? How can you call the Democrats the devil, and how are they still tricking black people?
Well, Brother Clarence, you made a statement yourself when you talked about how it was the Kennedys who did what they were doing to also Hoover, who was a closet gay man, but that's another subject.
That's another subject.
That's another subject. It's funny how a person can be doing something in the background and then go against somebody else doing something in the background. That's funny to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, you already stated, Brother Clarence, how the Democrats had ordered him to be followed. Well, gave Hoover the go ahead.
Yeah.
They're telling poor black people on one side of their mouth, "Oh, we're for you, we're for you, we're for you," and then on the other side of their mouth, they're trying to take Dr. King down. That's evil, in my humble opinion. Now, only God can say who's evil and who's not. So thank you for checking me on that. But I just feel so powerful about Democrats. And yeah, they were called the Dixiecrats then.
They were.
They were called the Dixiecrats, and they changed themselves to the Democrats. They're still the same people.
Yeah.
You know how I know they're still the same people? Because under the Democrat regime, under any Democratic authority, black people don't get ahead. But when there was a Republican in power, black people get ahead. Now I want somebody to challenge that. If you can, I'll wait.
I will definitely say I agree with that.
Okay.
Listen, when you write, you're right. I agree when you write, and I 100% agree with that. I talked about that on other platforms, being, raised into a Democratic family, just traditionally,
Right.
and I think a lot of us have, and realizing that as we've gotten older, what have that party ever really truly done for us, but made us a bunch of promises they didn't keep, or dangle the carrot or the shiny object and give us the charismatic words, but absolutely did nothing for black people. So I definitely would agree with her.
Thank you, Sister OG Patrice, because your words, I don't know if you realize this, your words carry a lot of weight. People listen to everything you say with respect and honor, and I have nothing but respect and honor for you. But for you to to get on Miss Juana's side on this one. Thank you, sister.
Well,
Thank
no,
you.
sis. But listen, the truth is the truth. You know, you gotta
Right.
call a spade, and a thing a thing. And I've said it on other platforms before, prior to this. So, I appreciate you saying, people listen to me, and it carries a lot of weight. I believe they
Yes.
listen to you, and it carries a lot of weight as well. And I have a lot of respect for you, as well, my sister. So, but hey, look, when you're right, you're right. And that's what I want my people to open their eyes to, if they can
Right.
realize what
Right.
truth really truly is. I was just on Angela Stan King's platform speaking the same thing,
Right.
the other day. I'm a
I
moderator on her
love that
channel.
sister. I love that
Yeah, I'm
sister.
I'm a moderator on their channel, and she did a stream yard, and I spoke on, on the politics, and how who truly the lesser evil truly was, and all of that. It was really great. But thank you. I really appreciate that from both of you guys. It means a lot to hear you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
say that, because I respect your views and opinions as well so much, and it carries a lot of weight in these YouTube streets as well.
Yes, 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 y'all. All right, ladies. You guys, as usual, knocking them out of the park, right? But y'all not done yet. I know y'all think y'all done. Brother Clarence, throw us a softball. No, just getting ready to, then we just gonna start clocking them faster. You guys ever been to a batting cage? Start you out at 70 miles an hour, and then they bump you up to 80 miles an hour, and then bump you up to 90. So I'm just gonna start bumping y'all up. Okay, did MLK help the black economy by boycotting the white businesses? And if so, how? Okay, let's take a look at the word boycott. A boycott is an act of nonviolent, voluntary, intentional abstention from using or buying a product or dealing with a person, organization, or country as an expression of protest, usually for moral, social, political, or environmental reasons. The purpose of a boycott is to inflict some economic loss on the target or to indicate a moral outrage to try to compel the target to alter an objectionable behavior. The word boycott entered the Indian language during the Irish Land War and derives from Captain Charles Boycott, the land agent of an absentee landlord, Lord Erne, who lived in a low mask house near Ballinrobe in County Mayo, Ireland, who was the subject of social ostracism organized by the Irish Land League in 1880. As harvest had been poor that year, Lord Arne offered his tenants a 10% reduction in their rents. In September that year, protesting tenants demanded a 25% reduction, which Lord Arne refused. Boycott then attempted to evict 11 tenants from the land. Charles Stewart Parnell, in his speech in Ennis prior to the events in Low Mass, proposed that when dealing with the tenants who take farms under another tenant was evicted, rather than resorting to violence, everyone in the locality should shun them. All right. Basically, you're trying to inflict economic harm, right? Okay. Did the boycott do economic harm? It did do economic harm to white businesses, but the bad part about the boycott is when boycott means you're going to stop going there, and then when they finally do what you want them to do, then you're going to go back. What we could have done, this is just an option. What we could have done is said, okay, we'll give the white businesses a piece of our business, but we're going to keep some of our business in house, like everybody else does. Like everybody else does. But we didn't do that. We didn't do that. We went running over there to give them all of our business, and I don't think that was a good move. And as we all can agree, that Martin Luther King, after a while, recognized that maybe that wasn't the best economic situation we could have jumped into. All right, y'all. I got another question for y'all. I thank you, ladies, so much for coming up and coming on. I appreciate y'all. My next question is, what is civil rights? What is civil rights? Can we define what civil rights is? We already talked about there's a difference between civil rights and human rights. Okay, what's the difference? What is civil rights? Let's get a definition of civil rights so we can know what our brother was fighting for out here. What was he trying to accomplish?
Well, I think it's more of a personal right guaranteed from what it's saying by the Constitution and the federal laws. It's more of a personal right guaranteed to protect the United States Constitution and Federal Rights Act. It's more civil and political rights as a class of rights to protect individuals' freedom from infringements by government, social organizations, and private individuals.
Cheating. Cheating.
Hey, I couldn't remember it all. I couldn't remember it all. I honestly could not. Because I know at the end of listen, because I know listen, I know the whole civil rights movement at the end of 1965 was
No, but you're
definitely
right.
to
You're absolutely right. You're
to
absolutely
focus
right.
specifically on that for Negro people, because back then we were called Negroes.
Yeah.
So I had to look it up. I knew it. See, because people don't realize you have to put all of that together because it's political. You got to connect the political, the civil with the political, because it affects the Constitution and the government. So you got to put that together with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Human rights, like she said, it's a separate entity, different movement, but he was known as the civil rights movement activist. Dr. King was, and at the end of that civil rights movement, the civil rights problems began and affected started to stagnate the embarrassment of the rich people, right? So Negroes leaders were told that they did not have to maintain their assembly armies, nor what goals should they seek. So as a leader of a lot of those white people, they didn't like that Negroes were exercising their civil rights and fighting for them even back then, but they realized that they had to do it politically. And so when they
Okay.
got political party, when Dr. King got political parties behind him, and they were all for it, and they didn't look like him, they were white counterparts, right? Of course, it angered more of those white Dixiecrats, as brother, sister Joanna is saying. It
Yeah.
angered them,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's the political power that King needed behind him. So the more and more that he went on and got a lot of, probably more than likely, I would think, Caucasian Republicans behind him, that's when he angered the quote unquote alleged so-called Dixiecrats, which ultimately led to his demise.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So civil rights, I agree. Now, here's where I say that I think he made another. He came to another realization that even though it was called civil rights, it should have actually been called human rights. It should have been the human rights movement. But but he was specifically the government and people that was helping him to try to funnel money into these programs to help the civil rights movement. They specifically wanted it labeled civil rights. You're a civil rights movement instead of human rights, because like I said, we all know
Right,
what
but
happened.
Clarence, but that was because, excuse me for interjecting, but that's because
Oh,
he needed the political party behind him.
yeah. That's what I'm
You know what
saying.
I
That's the
mean?
only way you're gonna get the
So
money if you
absolutely.
label it this way, right?
That's even right today, bro, Krantz. That's why when I talk about how you vote is important, and vote policies, and how politicians are purchased to get laws passed, to get bills passed, that still stands right today. So
Right,
Dr. King realized that he needed political power behind him too.
right.
So that's why they had to incorporate that in with the civil rights. They go hand in hand.
But what I'm saying, Sister Patrice, is that they was not gonna let him call it a human rights uh, program. They wasn't gonna let him call it the human rights program. They being the people in power that was like, hey, if you label this the civil rights movement, we can get you money to help this
Right.
situation roll. But if you call it a
Now
human
you're
rights
talking.
situation,
Right.
we ain't gonna be able to get no money for you. And then now you're going to give up against you taking it over our
And
heads
just think
and
about
winning.
it. Even then, bro Clarence, it probably was not. They probably told him it wasn't a good idea to call him human rights either back then.
Oh
Because
yeah, of
remember,
course.
we wasn't even considered human, even not even back then.
Of course. Yeah.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
sure. I'm sure he got, I'm sure they promised him, a song in a river. Let's just do it the way we telling you to do it, and it's gonna all work out. I'm sure they promised him a lot of different stuff, but I'm
Absolutely.
saying the civil part of it, we could have had it. We could have replaced that with human rights. But I can't. I'm not even mad at the brother. I mean, who would have done any different in his shoes? Who
Absolutely.
would have done any different? I mean, besides the women part, who would have done any different in his shoes? And even the women part, who would have done any different? So we can't, I mean, I'm just asking questions, but you know, the seriousness of it is this man did a lot. He risked his life, not only his life, but his family's life to try to make things better for all of us. And so
Absolutely.
that's what we gotta respect that. Even though we having these hard discussions, we gotta respect that.
And bro
So
Clarence,
civil rights. Oh, go ahead, sis.
no, I just want to ask you because Sister Enya in the chat asked me and you and Joanna a question. I answered it pretty much, but her question was,
Oh,
did you about feeling traumatized by so many of our leaders during that time, the Panthers, King X, all being deleted back then? And I answered saying that I didn't feel traumatized, but I definitely felt the effects of it. I answered that I know for a fact that my mom and dad were traumatized because they were that was doing their adult life. I was just a little girl, so for me, I had to watch it. So I felt, and I still feel the effects of it right today. But my parents were more traumatized by it. Would I don't know what your answer would be to that.
you know what? My answer would be, I do feel traumatized because, excuse me, my parents were traumatized, and tried to make it. They always tried to make it. Let me know that, hey, don't think that everybody's gonna like you just because you're gonna run into some people that ain't gonna. They try to break it down to me early to let me see that So, and I always wondered why. I mean, when you were a kid, you think everybody's gonna be cool. You don't know about robbers, and you don't know about stuff like that. You got to find that stuff out. So they tried to tell me, hey man, because my father grew up in the South, so he knew that, hey, they can get real ugly down there. So he tried to tell me, because we went back there a couple of times, and he wanted to let me know, hey man, if somebody say something to you, don't trip, because this is how they do. Just come and get me, and I'll handle it. You know what I mean? So, but as far as me being traumatized, I think we as a group are traumatized because instead of
I would
chasing,
agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, instead of working as a group, and to still get things done, we now have we have been um, um, intimidated into being individualists because of all this violence that they um, have inflicted on us. For anybody who's tried to pull black people in a different direction than the government wants them to go in, such violence will be inflicted on that person. That is to let us know that, oh, okay, well, we better not do that. We better not follow in this person's footsteps.
But you know
Let's
what,
just
bro
chase
Clarence?
individually.
Now that I'm
Yes.
thinking about it, I don't think the younger generation is traumatized. Because I think they have detached themselves so far removed from from anything about the history of civil rights, Jim Crow, Reconstruction, slavery. I mean, they I don't hear, you know what I mean? I don't think they're traumatized, honestly. If I had to say that. I really I think maybe from us, like some of the Gen X to the boomers are, but I don't think the millennials the Gen Zs, the Gen Ys. I don't think they are. I just don't, for some reason. I don't um, think that they're traumatized. I don't even know if they would acknowledge that they even still feel the effects of it like I do, like right today. Even though I know my parents who are silent from the silent generation were definitely traumatized. My mom, to be a little girl and see your mother crying and you don't know why
Yeah.
she crying and she looking at TV and looking at a man that I'm familiar. I was only like 4 years old, so
Yeah.
you know y- my brain couldn't understand that, but then to know as I got older why she was crying then, but as a 4 year old, how you going to explain it to a 4 year old? So
Yeah.
but watching your mom cry even as a kid, something wrong, you just can't, your brain just can't put it together what is, but you do know something is wrong, so it does
Right.
affect you.
Right.
But I watched my mom be traumatized by that because, and my dad,
Yeah.
the house was, I just remember solemn in the house. I just remember sadness. I just remember uh phone calls being made and people crying on the phone and hollering was going on. So my aunties, my mom's twin sister, they were traumatized.
Yeah.
Like that's how much they loved that man. So
Yeah.
and because of that, the effect of that, I guess witnessing that, even being a kid, affected me for sure.
Yeah. Well, then you got to remember, Patrice, now. So back then we had Stevie Wonder, Gil Scott Heron. We had a lot of different artists that was singing
Oh yeah,
about those.
James Brown, Aretha Franklin, yeah.
Exactly. We had
Mhm.
people that was keeping it in the air.
Nina
Was
Simone,
keeping the
absolutely.
issue. They were keeping the issue in the air. Whereas today, like you said, you're right. I think you're right. If I think about it myself, these youngsters are so far removed from that they don't even. I mean, they don't even want to hear about it. A lot of them. They just don't even want to hear about uh, you know, that issue and the things and the intricacies of that situation. Back when I you too young for this, but I'm gonna tell you what they used to do when I was going to elementary and middle school. We had a young man named Brandon. I think it was his last name Lewis. I think it was Lewis, Brandon Lewis. I believe his last name was Brandon Lewis. He was, I think I was in the third grade. He was in the fifth or sixth grade. Every year they would have this man come back to the school and do Martin Luther King speech every year. I mean, they
Mhm.
kept it out there, and then
That
they
was in
did
every school when I was coming up. You are 100% correct.
right. So I think it was always in our it was always in the air with us, especially around Black History Month. It was always in the air with us, and we had to do a Black History report. You had to pick somebody, and then you had to do a report on that person, right? Okay, so but now they don't have to do that. Why? Because nobody wants to. If you do something like that, the other people could say, well, you're making other people feel bad by doing these, by just singling out these other people. And I don't agree with that, but that's how it's being worded out there. It's being put out there. So instead of fighting that, everybody's just letting it go. Not everybody, but most people are just letting it go, letting it slide down. So now nobody else say nothing. We just don't say anything now. We just like, hey, we're
Yeah,
all
I would
one big.
agree.
Yeah.
I
So
would
it's
agree. Our programs were huge on Dr. King, and when I was coming up in school, it wasn't just we sing a song. Like we had a whole program, like a whole program was dedicated. We had people come from other schools, other speakers, principals.
yes,
We had a
yes,
big
yes,
our school choir sung. I mean, it was huge. That's
yeah,
how much we appreciated, dedicated, and honored Dr. King. Even before it was a holiday, we did that in
yeah,
schools. And then
yeah.
like, and
But
then speaking of making it become a holiday, look at the work that was put into that. When you talk about Stevie Wonder and people that fought, a lot
yes,
of celebrities got on board. You just don't see stuff
yeah,
like that anymore, for
yes,
leaders. So absolutely, it was huge. It was really big. And like now, like you said, we live in a society where everybody's so sensitive, and thinking you're going to offend a whole nother race of people just because you want to celebrate one black man on once a year. Like that's
Yeah.
insane to me. But everything we was taught in school, you know what I'm saying? The
Right.
system that we was taught was their system. But it's
Right.
almost like, but you can't give us this. You know what
Right.
I mean? And it's just like we settle for, well, just take that and that's it. Anyway, that's another
Yeah.
whole nother
That's
conversation. But
another
anyway,
conversation, right? So we don't get mad when you bring up the forefathers, the forefathers, the forefathers, the forefathers, the forefathers. We don't bring up. We don't. Okay, cool. But let us have this. Let us have this. That way we can learn how to appreciate each other, and then it won't be no issue. I hear Martin Luther King. You hear Martin Luther King. You don't have no issue. I hear George Washington. I don't have no issue. I won't have no issue. I won't even think outside of just him holding office. When I think of George Washington now, I think about him not only holding office, but also the other stuff, the slave ownership. You know what I mean? So, which is inherent, has certain things involved in that. So, you know what I'm saying? So we don't, we want to just get to the point where, hey, we respect everybody. Everybody's differences is we can respect everybody's differences because that's where it should be. If we're gonna do this, let's do it right. Right? Now, getting back to the civil rights situation, I agree with you. It's not being put out there. The artists now today are not addressing these issues, or even if they are, they're probably being told by the A&R person, "Hey, man, we can't put nothing like that out there. We just not. We're not gonna. That's a waste of money for us to spend money promoting and marketing this. That's a waste of our money. You got to be talking about deleting black men. You got to be talking about slapping black women. You got to be talking about some violence somewhere in here, right? You can't just be talking about, hey, it's a kumbaya thing. We're gonna come together and let's walk the straight line. So that's the thing where we're at. Because I remember my mom being upset too. But I remember her being upset. I remember my family being upset for a long time after that. But like I
oh,
said,
absolutely.
it was like I said, it was in the air
And the
because
world
a lot of the
changed.
musicians,
The world changed that day. It was definitely, I like I said, I was young, but I just remember hearing Holland screaming, phone calls being made, Holland screaming through the phone, my dad rushing home. As a little, my 4-year-old brain couldn't comprehend all what was going on, but my 4-year-old brain knew something wasn't right. It wasn't the norm of our household, right? So
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely the effect of it. But my parents were absolutely traumatized and their parents. So yeah.
Hey, Sister Patrice, I see that they're looking for you on another podcast. You got to go, girl. We always you always got a place to stay here, so don't even trip. Go ahead and handle your business down there.
Yeah, I told B Sherelle I'm gonna be over there. Yep. So
Yeah,
I keep forgetting about the difference of the times because I knew she said 6, but I forgot I'm on Mountain Standard Time, so it must be 5 my time or whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna step down. Thank you so much, Bro Clarence.
thank you so
And
Take
much,
care,
sis.
I
OG
appreciate it.
Patrice.
All
Take
right,
care,
Sister Jawana, you too.
All right, now see you later, sis. All right, man, man, oh man, oh man. I had so much
brother
more to ask her, but I gotta
Clarence.
go. Yes,
I had dropped my phone.
you breaking up, sis. You breaking up. You breaking up, sis. You gotta get off that flip phone. You gotta get your regular. You like me. You got an old phone. You gotta get off that flip phone. Get off that burner phone, Sister Wanda. You gotta get you a real phone, not one of them ones with the. You got one of them phones with those big numbers. Boop 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 boop, and then that crackling dialing sound. I can't hear you, Sister Wanda. I can't hear you. Sister Wanda, go back up. No, no, brother M3, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. I'm glad you told her because if Sister Patrice is this kind of sister, man. If you don't say nothing to her, she gonna go where her heart is, and she's probably needed more over there because we all pretty much have this information. We trying to just share with everybody else. But she's the type of sister, she'll stay where her heart is. If she's over here, she'll stay here and miss that appointment just because her heart is in this conversation. So no, I'm glad that you came up and brought her out. I had to kick her off of here because she'll stay here. Sister Wanda.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. Now I can hear you.
Man, I dropped my phone. I dropped my phone and the screen is all messed up. I may have to just go ahead and leave. I just want to let you know I've been here. I can hear, but I dropped my phone and it messed everything up. But OG Patrice was right again. You know, the youth aren't really that concerned about it because really it's just to me personally, it's a bunch of drama. And I agree with you about there's nothing wrong with talking about the founding fathers. Likewise, we shouldn't have a problem with talking about one man, one day of the year, or one time of the year.
Right.
You know, or any of them. Thank you for any of them. We shouldn't have an issue talking about any of these difficult things. But I definitely believe that we sometimes us older people take this white black thing too far. Sister OG Patrice admitted she was only about 4 years old when Dr. Martin Luther King died, and I was born a year later after he died. Right. So it seems like a lot of the real racial issues was back a long time ago, and Dr. Martin Luther King, another reason why he was killed is because he was bringing blacks and whites together. Yes. We're supposed to be together, but it seems like us old heads are teaching a certain sect of black people to keep it going.
You mean?
Well, what do I mean? Yeah. I don't believe a lot of the things that we have seen in recent times are racism. I think that's Democrats pumping up a bunch of issues that shouldn't really be there between whites and blacks. You know, pumping up, as if they make it like black people are still being hunted down like they were during those times when they had a lot of lynchings. That's not the truth today.
Right.
But I'm sorry if you disagree. I'm sorry, but that's not the truth.
No, let's talk about it.
It's so okay. Thank you, because I was off for a good while.
Okay.
So okay. It's so far from the truth of what's going on about racism, this, that, and the other. Even Dr. Martin Luther King knew that it wasn't what he thought it was, because he was middle class. There was some clashes between poor white people and poor black people that was going on. And yes, there were blacks who were being discriminated from housing and jobs and getting their land stolen. But that wasn't across the board. That's why black people have land and businesses and stuff today. That wasn't across the board. But you would think today that black people are being hunted down in the streets, and that's not true. Even Dr. Martin Luther King recognized that blacks and whites have way more in common, especially middle-class blacks and whites have way more in common than any other people in America. And he was trying to bring these people together.
Okay. Now let's talk about racism. Well, first of all, I have to agree with you that I can't say that it's all the way gone, but it's definitely not to the degree that it was 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Definitely have to agree with that. That when I say, and what I'm talking about is the brutality and the viciousness solely based on race. That is gone down, definitely. So I have to agree with you with that. It's not where we want it to be, where it's zero, but it's definitely not the number, nowhere close to what it used to be when there were no laws on the books for doing something like that just because somebody was of another race other than Caucasian. Now, racism. Do you know what racism is? I'm sure you do, but I'm gonna define it for the audience. I know that most of the people out there in the audience, you think racism is bigotry. You have replaced the word bigotry with racism, where a person has some type of issue with another person because of some type of their genetic features that they have that's different than the ones they have, than the ones that the person that's causing the offense possesses. In other words, I have white skin, and so I'm gonna attack Sister Wanda because she has black skin, right? That would what we would call that what we have intertwined these words and call it racism, but it's actually that's bigotry. Racism is a competition for resources. Racism is a group's competition, specific groups competing for resources, for control of resources. That's what racism actually is. So it's not. So when we replace the word with the word bigotry with racism, and sometimes racism has bigotry in it, intertwined in there. But racism actually is a competition for resources. Okay, so that means that sometimes that desire for that competition for resources by groups is going to overlap into racism. I mean, overlap into bigotry. It's going to overlap over there. You know what I mean? Even though you might have some black people that are Republican, still the Democrats are going to say, "Don't vote for the Republicans because they're racist." And we will say, "But they got black people in their camp." Yeah, but they're just what do you call it, Uncle Toms. They're just Uncle Toms, and we can get into that. But that's what racism is. Racism is a competition for resources. And so if our people are competing for resources, if certain people are competing for resources, then racism is going to trump classism, because eventually it's going to be certain classes of people in these racist groups that's going to be trying to hold on to the resources. Like, for example, you have certain groups of people, ethnic groups of people, that control most of the American media. You have a certain ethnic group of people that control this. You have a certain ethnic group of people that control the monetary situation, how the money is printed, how it's insured, how it's distributed, how it's delivered. All of that stuff is controlled by a certain, on the mass scale, by certain small groups of ethnic group of people. And so they want to try to control that. They're not trying to distribute it. That's why they call them conservatives. When you're trying to conserve something, you're trying to hold on to as much of it as you can. That's called a conservative. You're trying to conserve it, right? They tell you conserve water. They tell you why. Don't use it. Use the least amount of it as you can, right? Okay, the conservatives are trying to conserve their control over the resources, as much control over as much resources as they can. Now, how did Dr. Martin Luther King threaten that situation? You still with me, Sister Wanda?
I'm with you, sir.
Okay. How did Dr. Martin Luther King threaten that situation? He threatened it because, like you said, not only him, but Fred Hampton. Not only Fred Hampton, but Dr. Huey P. Newton.
Let me get in here, brother. Let me get in here.
Okay.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the greatest Black conservative ever. And let me go further in saying that Black people in general are conservative people.
Pretty much.
We are conservative. We used to be Republicans, but this whole the Jim Crow thing and all the lynchings and stuff made us think that all white people were against us. That's not true. Black people, even today, are traditionally very conservative. They have conservative, and what are we conserving? We're conserving traditional values. Black as a whole, Black people have traditional conservative Values. Your mommy would say, close the door when you go out, you know, close it, keep the door closed. You're letting the air out. They're conserving energy. We say, you know, stop running the car up and down the road. You're using up all the gas. They're conserving energy. You know, turn the lights off when you're not using them. We're conserving energy. Black people are the greatest are the greatest conservatives. Now, when you're talking about resources, Black people are all about conserving resources. So I have to push back, Brother Clarence, because this is the argument about Democrats and Republicans that you're getting into, that Black people in general don't really understand. Liberalism is being liberal with the resources. Oh, we'll just give you this. Oh, you can have this. Here's welfare. Here's Section 8. Here, that's liberalism. Conservatism is, hey, let's keep taxes low. We don't want to pay high taxes. Now, who's complaining about high taxes? People who have to pay them. Poor people pay, you know, less taxes than wealthy people. So when you're talking about conserving and being a conservative, you know, that's a good thing. And this is what, you know, Martin Luther King didn't even get to. He was a conservative. What he was against, and I'm gonna say it again.
Let me say this.
What he was against was the killing of poor Black people in the South. He was not against being a conservative.
Well, let me context what I'm saying when I say conservative in the modern era here, because I don't think he was against the conserving of the old laws and ways. That's what I'm saying. He was conserving, meaning that.
Well, yes, because those ways were killing poor Black people. He was against that. He was not against. He was. Yeah, but see, but you got to state it in a way where the audience can understand. Being a conservative is good. Keeping money in your own pocket, keeping more money that you get paid from your job, less taxes being taken out of your paycheck. That's conservatism. Hey, Black people. If you can hear, hey, Black people, if you can hear the sound of my voice, when taxes are being taken out of your check, that's liberalism.
Okay.
That's liberalism.
Okay.
That's a democratic way. Take more of your taxes. Conservatism is they want to keep the money in your pocket. Okay.
So let me say this. What you're talking about at this point, we have more to agree on at this point because we have more access to more opportunities at this point. So now it makes sense for us to be conservative at this point. I'm talking about back then when this brother here was out there, the opportunities wasn't as great. So so Black people didn't see the rationale in being conservative at that point.
It wasn't great for poor Blacks. And this is why I push back.
That's what I mean.
We need to distinguish who the people we're talking about. Wealthy and middle. Wait a minute, brother. Wealthy and middle class Black people like Dr. Martin Luther King's family. He was a middle class. They were fine. There was a lot of Black people who were fine. It was poor Blacks who was, and just like today, the people all out there at Black Lives Matter in the last 2 years, marching and all that, those are poor people. Looting the stores and breaking in, those are poor Black people. Wealthy and middle class people weren't doing that. So we have to be very descriptive about who we're talking about.
Okay, I'm trying to be very descriptive. I mean, when I'm saying conservative, you got more conservative Black people today than you did back then, as far as, you know, the economy and taxes and so on and so forth, because they had less access back then. Now we got even more access, even more opportunities to become a middle class and upper middle class and rich or whatever you want to call it, there's more opportunity. So of course there are going to be more conservative Black people. But at the time, I'm specifically talking about Dr. King's time, where he became a threat to the U.S. government, and that threat was just like I was talking about with Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton was not only meeting with the Latino gangs, he was meeting with the Irish gangs. He was meeting with a lot of different ethnicities in Chicago, and he was pulling their ears, and he became a threat to the way the government, the U.S. government, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. So
and that's what that's what made Dr. Martin Luther King dangerous, because he was reaching down. And this is why it's really not a racism thing, brother. It was a classist thing. Here's how it's a classist. Here's how it's a classist thing. Even Chris Rock says that there are N-words and there are Black people. We're different people. We have different experiences. There were so-called Black people in Dr. Martin Luther King's time who was doing very well, and they were the majority. That wasn't good enough for him.
I don't know about
that. Was not good enough for him. He wanted all people who were poor. But see, that goes against capital. In capitalism, there's going to be classes. There's going to be wealthy, there's going to be middle class, and there's always going to be poor. Even in scripture, Jesus says the poor will always be among us.
Yeah, that's no matter what kind of structure you have for your monetary structure. You're going to have poor people. You're going to have
exactly. But the Democrats make make poor Black people think that there's something wrong with the fact that they're poor. Now, there is something wrong with being poor in America, because we're a capitalistic society and you can sell anything. But the Democrats make Black people feel like they're supposed to have just as much as Bill Gates, just as much as Elon Musk, just as much as the president. In capitalistic society, you get what you earn, what you can sell, what value you can provide. That has nothing to do with racism. Do you know that in the 50s, one of the wealthiest Black men who sold insurance to white folks and Black folks, they didn't have any issue with his race? This is all about class. It has nothing to do with racism.
Well, see, here's the thing. But let me I'm gonna sidestep to that, and then I'm gonna go about what I'm saying. Okay, so you're right. I think the main thing that the average person who has substantial assets or who has something of value that they don't want to lose, when they're doing business, the main thing they're going to look for is competency. I don't think color is going to be the main issue. It's going to be, is this person competent in what they're doing, right? Okay, but however, I think what most Black people were looking for was just opportunities. I don't think most Black people were looking for handouts. They were looking for, oh, you got to give me this, you got to give me that. They were just looking for opportunities.
But see, here's the thing, Brother Clarence, going back to my earlier statements, the opportunities have always been there. That's my point. We had Black-owned hotels. We had Black-owned restaurants. We had Black-owned taxi service. We had Black-owned bus services. We had these things. The opportunities were always there. We had Black-owned insurance companies. We had Black-owned banks. And the narrative that we continue to spin is that, Black people wasn't given the same opportunity as white people, and that's untrue.
Well,
there's always. Let me tell you something. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example, Brother Clarence. I have an auntie who lives out there where you are in Laguna Beach.
Wow.
She's a millionaire.
Yeah, got to be.
At the same time, that auntie has a brother, same bloodline, who's in prison.
Right.
That's a class issue. I got wealthy people
Ooh, you breaking up, Sister
my
Wanda.
family.
You breaking up. Ooh, you breaking up.
I got a cousin in the NBA right now.
All right.
Can you hear me?
I can now. Yes. Now you coming in clear.
I have a cousin in the NBA right now.
Okay.
I have a cousin. I got family members on welfare. This is a class issue. There's always opportunities for all people, but the narrative that we continue to spin is that Black people don't have the same opportunities. What Black people are misunderstanding is that they expect the same outcomes as other people. You're not going to have the same outcomes.
I think some people might feel that way, but I don't think the average Black person. I think especially now. Here's where I'm really going to push back on you.
The average Black person shouldn't have the same outcomes because they're average.
Okay, so they don't.
Only the exceptional. Wait a minute. Only the exceptional people get exceptional outcomes. There's way more middle class and poor white people than there are white people.
Okay, but
there's 1% of white people who are really wealthy. The rest of them are middle class and poor. They have the same opportunity, but these people are average. Average people do not get exceptional outcomes, and Black people have not been taught this. All they've been taught is racism.
Wait a minute, Sister Wanda. I hear what you're saying. Right now, we got exceptional people. They're sitting in prison. They got a prison in Denver, Colorado that's a mile underground. And we got some of the most exceptional minds, Black and white.
If they were exceptional, they wouldn't be in prison.
Sister Wanda, you're not letting me finish. And see, that doesn't make you exceptional because you go to prison. What makes you exceptional is the fact that you're able to work certain problems out in your head and being able to motivate other people to get involved and do it as well, right? But obviously,
yes, but the people in prison didn't do that.
But obviously, well, we got a brother now. His name used to be called H. Rap Brown. I forgot what he changed his name to. Now he changed to an Islamic name. And that brother was able to stir a lot of people and get a lot of people together. And so what they ended up doing is finally they saw that he had a weakness, like MLK. They saw that he had a weakness, and they decided to infiltrate and push him into promoting that weakness to him and getting him more further involved in that weakness until finally they was able to federally take him down, and now they got him a mile down in the ground down there in Denver, Colorado, right? Not just him. There's other what we call political prisoners down there, right? But what I'm saying is just because a person is not rich doesn't mean they're not exceptional. That's my point. Just because a person is rich is exceptional.
Okay. I agree. Just because a person is not rich doesn't mean they're not exceptional. Right. But at the same time, Brother Clarence, if you're making it about racism, I have to push back. It's not about racism. It's about class. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna tell you how. Like I said, remember how I told you that racism will overlap in the classes. The classes will overlap. The classism will overlap with the racism. Then they were intertwined with each other sometimes, because racism, even in the racism, you're going to have classism inside the racism. The classism will be a subset of the racism. Once everybody of a certain race, just like what it used to be, where the white people were free and the Black people were not free. Okay, in that free class of white people, you had poor white people, you had indentured servants, you had other classes of white people in that quote unquote free group of white people. So the classism will, but overall, Black people were not considered citizens. They were considered property, right? I just did that. I not this week, but the week before, or 2 weeks before, I did. What was the brother I did? Not Plessy versus Ferguson. That was the train case. But the brother that went with his master up into the Minnesota territory, and he fought the government. He said, "Hey, you took me into a territory that doesn't recognize slavery. Therefore, I'm free. Now you're taking a free man back, and I'm free. So he went and fought it, and they said, no, you were never a citizen. You never had no rights. You were always his property. Even when you crossed the line, you was his property. I forgot, what is the name of that? I just did that Black History Minute like 2 weeks ago. Sister Wanda, you breaking up. You got to get off that flip phone. You know what? You on there? You using a rotary phone. You're using a rotary phone. Got to get off that rotary phone, Sister Wanda.
Brother Clarence.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You sound beautiful now.
The guy you were talking about is Dred Scott.
Dred Scott, thank you, sis. Appreciate you. Dred Scott. Dred Scott. Yes, he said, "Hey, you took me into a territory that it wasn't even states yet. It was just a territory. You took me into that territory. The U.S. government, based on that agreement, whatever, I forgot the name of that agreement. This agreement, slavery is not recognized in this agreement. If the U.S. was going to accept this territory, then they said, okay, we'll accept it. And the South said, we'll recognize it. And the North said, okay, we'll recognize it, but slavery is not allowed in this territory. Everybody said, okay, they agreed to that, right? So this man, Dred Scott, was taken up into that territory, and he said, hey, you took me up here. Now I'm not a slave no more. I'm a free man. Now you're taking a free man back to whatever, I forgot wherever they were from. He fought that, right? But I'm just saying, but the racism is still there, right? Because their whole goal was to keep the blacks away from the resources, right?
That had nothing to do with racism. That had to do with economics. The Civil War was over. The Civil War was over economics because black people were considered property. It had nothing to do with racism. And how do I know this? Because at the same time, while they had black slaves, they had free black people who also were able to have slaves. They had white and black slaves. This was a class issue. This was a class issue, brother. It's always been.
I understand.
It's always. Wait a minute. It's always been a class issue. Black people had slaves. Rich.
Hold on. Wait a minute, Sister Wanda. Wait a minute. You're throwing out a lot of information, and we got to straighten some of it out. Okay, so you're saying that it wasn't about racism.
Straighten it out.
Okay, we're gonna straighten it out right now.
If you let me speak, I'm gonna straighten it out. If you let me speak, I'll straighten it out.
Yes, yeah, of course.
In 1850, there were over 1,000 black millionaires, free black people. How was that when they had slavery? And can you hear me?
Of course, yeah, I can hear you. Of course, some of them were.
In 1850, before the Civil War, before the blacks were even before the blacks were even freed, there was over 1,000 wealthy black free people who also had slaves. How did that happen if it was about racism?
Number two. Can I answer that? You want me to answer that? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So number one, how did they have slaves? Well, a lot of them had family members that were still on plantations, so they had to go and pay for them. So that's how they had slaves.
The majority of these people who had slaves, they were not family members.
Okay, well, if you can verify that, then that's fine. But that is the best way I can explain it, because
history. Yes, I verified it on one of your other shows when we had Chaotic Truth on here. But nobody wanted to hear me. Everybody told me I was crazy.
Well, I'm listening to you.
Brother Rico.
I know.
Brother Rico said. Brother Rico said the same thing you're saying. He said, yeah, there was black people who had slaves, but those were their family members. No. Black people had slaves, other black people and white people. And see, how did that happen? How did black people have white slaves? See, this is the history that we don't talk about. It's not
You
about
couldn't do it.
racism. It's about class. It was about
But,
class. It's still about class.
but listen,
Michael Jordan today has stock in a private prison that has majority of black people in it, and he's a black man. Is that about racism?
well, that's that. Okay, that's. I'm not saying that's about racism. That's a whole
It's
nother
about
issue.
class. It's
Well,
always been
okay,
about
well,
class.
that's about economics. But like, okay, but let me
It's about
first.
class.
Let me
It's
let me
about class economics.
let
Yes.
me let me go back. Let's go back to the because there is no now there's white people that own white people, absolutely, but
And there were black people who own white people too.
that's and well, you're gonna have to fact check that one for me because I can't.
Okay. Okay.
'Cause I have
Let's have.
never. Let me
I want
listen.
you to have a
Okay,
show.
well, let
I
me
want you to.
do it this way. Let me do it this
I
way.
want you to have a show about it, and I'm gonna bring up these facts, and I'm gonna bring up links to it.
Okay, good because the federal government said it was okay to own black people. I never saw where the federal government said it was legal to own whites. But if you got some facts that shows that the federal government said it's okay to own white people, then fine. We'll bring that up. We'll talk about that. But I know for a fact the federal government said it was okay to own black people. We know that. So that's all I'm saying. You might be right, but I know because I know white people own white people over in England, and even they might have even brought them over here with each other. They might have came over here together. But here, the U.S. government definitely said in the Constitution that you can own black people, and that it said it didn't specify no other race of people. Now the federal government did that. So if it's not about racism, okay, or bigotry, because that's actually what it is. It's the bigotry. It would a sprinkle of racism because of the economics. Racism is about economics. It's not about color. It's about economics and class. Because eventually the racism breaks down into classism. So that's what it's about. It's a competition for resources by specific groups, and that's all it is. So
And the other thing I want to point out is there is no such thing as racism. There is only one race.
well, if that's we using colloquialisms, Sister Wana. If
But
that's
it confuses black people, brother. It
have,
confuses black people. You have to say it correctly. You have to say it truthfully.
well,
There is,
we didn't
you
say
got
it
black
that way.
people. You got black people out here thinking that they're a different race from everybody else, and that's not true. There's only one race. What
Well,
you're talking about, and you were getting close to it when you said bigotry and discrimination, but what you're truly talking about and what black people don't understand, well, I shouldn't say black people, majority of black people don't understand in this country is they're talking about the differences in class, which has always existed. We had black millionaires in 1850 who were wealthy landowners who had slaves who were not their family members.
Agreed.
You got black people today who own multi-billion dollar corporations. Even today, those people aren't out there talking about Black Lives Matter and woe is me, we're the victims. You'll never see or hear from those people because they have money, which is about class.
But I'm trying to tell. I'm okay. I hear what you're saying. It's about classism. At this point, it's about classism because there's more opportunities for quote unquote black people to
the first man to legally own slaves in the colonies was a black man. His name was Anthony Johnson. This is not something new, brother Clarence. You're talking about, oh, now we have opportunities. Black people had opportunities. This was in the 1600s. Anthony Johnson, do your research. He had over 100 black slaves. He was a black man from Angola. He was not the only one. It's not something new. Black people have always had opportunities, but we continue to spew this narrative that black people have been oppressed, and now we're probably starting to get better. We've always done well. What I want people to
Oh, Sister Monica, you
be
breaking up.
specific
Oh man,
about
breaking up. Sister Monica.
is that other in this country, even before 1619, who owned land
Sister
and
Monica.
businesses and slaves.
Well, they own slaves in Africa. I mean, I'm not saying that nobody owned the black people didn't know the white people were the first people to own black slaves. I mean, we know that blacks owned slaves, but blacks looked at slavery totally different than they didn't look at it as chattel slavery like they did here. So that's what I'm saying. And so, do you, I mean, let's do a logical walk. So you're saying that blacks that came over here in the holds of ships,
People in the United States. Black people own people in the colonies. White people did too. Hispanic people did too. But you were only taught this narrative so we can keep this race thing going. And it's just ridiculous.
Sis, we can't dialogue if you keep interrupting.
And Martin Luther King knew this. That's why he didn't call. I wanted to answer your question. You said, why did I say that Dr. Martin Luther King called his campaign the Poor People's Campaign? Because he knew it wasn't about racism. It was about class. He knew that there was poor black people, poor white people, poor Hispanic people, Irish and Jewish people who were kept under a certain class level. Gandhi knew this.
I hear you.
Gandhi knew this.
I hear you. Okay, so let me ask you a question though, sis, because see, I'm trying to take a logical walk with you, and you keep interrupting me. I can never get
I apologize. I'm so sorry, but it's got me worked up. I apologize. Please, Brother Clarence, and the chat. I can't see what the chat is saying, but please accept my apology.
It's all right, sis. It's all right.
No, sincere. I'm sincere. I'm being wrong. You're right. I'm being wrong. Thank you for calling me out.
It's okay. I'm trying to. Okay, so you're saying, see, I don't want to be putting out information that is, way out. I want to, if it's information that they need to check on, let's let them go check on it. So, but what I'm saying is, are we agreed that black people came over here in the holds of ships and it wasn't for economic opportunities? The vast majority of them came over here to work in the fields in the South. The vast majority of them. Would you agree with that? That's the purpose of them being brought here.
It was an economic. This was the trade of that time. Just like right now, I have a food trailer. This is my trade. There's a lot of people who have food trailers now. This is a trade. And that time, the trade was trafficking other human beings. It wasn't something new. This was going on for centuries. I asked you, sis.
I asked the first people, did they come over here for economic opportunities, or did they come over here to work in the fields in the South?
Okay,
the vast majority,
the ones that you're talking about, and that's why I'm gonna sparse it just like that. The ones that you're talking about did not come over here for their own economic advantage. Why? Because those were the people who were already caught up in the slave traffic. They were sold by other black people and white people and Arabs and Indians. I'm talking about India, the country, not the Native American Indians. They were sold into slavery. Those people, no, you're right, didn't come over here for economic advantage. But other black people were coming over here for economic advantage and who were free.
I understand that,
also, before any white person stepped foot over here, there was black people already over here who had black people in slavery.
I understand that. But the slavery to blacks at that time was a whole different ballgame. It wasn't chattel slavery. It was a whole nother setup.
What is this thing about chattel slavery that you're talking about? Slavery is slavery.
No, it's not. Slavery.
Okay, what's the difference? What are you talking? You saying there's a good slavery and a bad slavery?
No, I'm saying there's a not a good slavery, but it's a more of a mercy than just killing everybody. Let's say you have a war, right? Your country's warring with my country, and we obviously have decimated all the men. Now there's just women and children and old people hiding under the tables, behind the rocks, and everything like that. Do we just euthanize them? Do we just kill them all? Or do we take
I don't
them
understand what you're talking about, Brother Clarence. I'm not being facetious or cruel. I don't understand what you're talking about.
I'm trying to describe the difference between chattel slavery and slavery as it was. Slavery has been around forever. So I'm trying to describe like slavery before chattel slavery, before the Europeans got involved with it and made a business out of it. It wasn't a business at this time. At this time, it wasn't a business. It was just a mercy to the women and children.
No.
Can I finish?
Yes, sir.
I thank you so much, sis. It was a mercy to the women and children and old people hiding under tables when they obviously have been overrun by their aggressor, by their enemy, right? Instead of killing them all, they would take them in. I mean, at least in the African countries, they would take them in and they would say, you can work. You can work as a slave. And after a certain amount of time, you can become a citizen of this country if you show yourself to be of value, right? That's how slavery worked in Africa. Now, when the Europeans turned it into a business, that's when the chattel part of it came in, where now you're a piece of property. They used to brand black people. They used to brand black people just like they brand horses and cows and sheep. They used to brand black people. You know this, Sister Juana. I ain't telling you nothing new. So they used to brand them. So that's how they looked at it. And I'm saying, you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe there are some black people that came here from another direction that didn't come in the holds of those slave ships, that came here to seeking opportunity. You're right. But I'm saying a vast majority of black people came here as a result of the economic slave trade. Now, let's get back to what you were saying about the difference between racism and classism. Like I said before, classism is a part of racism. It's a subset of racism. Racism doesn't care nothing about nobody's color. It doesn't care nothing about racism. Doesn't care about nothing but resources. It is simply one group trying to maintain control over the most amount of resources over the other group. That's racism. That's the definition there. So it's a race, just like you said, it's a race. It's a competition among certain groups for resources. Okay, within those groups, there's going to be classisms within the group. Even the group that's at the highest point in the hierarchy, there's going to be classism in that group, right? So all I'm saying is all of this stuff is intertwined with the fact that, see, a lot of times, like you said, sometimes we as black people, we'll try to make it simplify it by just saying, oh, all white people are just racist. And it's not that cut and dry. It's not that simple. There's some classism in there. Even in today's world, there's black people. We have much more opportunities today. So now we can be conservative, like you were saying before. We can be more conservative because now we got more opportunities for different economic opportunities. We got more ways of getting, I mean, as a group. Yeah, we're always going to have people, outliers, people that are just, no matter what, they're going to strive to get there, and be economically sound. But for the most part, most black people are traumatized because they feel like, the government and the world is against them or whatever. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, because we're trying to tell them the world is not against you, but we gotta be honest about all of this stuff, Sister Wanda. We gotta go into it. We gotta go into it. Gotta be honest, right?
You want me to answer?
Yes.
Brother Clarence, I've been listening, and you know what's so funny? I put my hand over my mouth to keep me from interrupting you. Can you open my mouth to keep from interrupting you? But while my hand is over my mouth, I just been shaking my head and pulling with my other hand. I've been pulling on my braids, almost pulling my braids out over the things that you're saying.
Sister Wanda, don't pull your braids out. Don't do that. Come on.
I disagree with so much that you're saying that we're just gonna have to have another show about this, because I know we've gotten off the subject of MLK. But brother, over the last 5-6 minutes that you spoke, I disagree with almost every single thing you said. And it's because we continue. When you say that over in Africa, that it was different, that it was like a mercy. Oh my goodness, brother. Oh my, I don't know how to begin. I don't even know how to begin with you. And this is, and I don't fault you, because this is how the majority of Black people in America think. They think, and see, and I don't understand why so many Black people in America think this way, when they can see all across America how we're divided. All across America, we're divided. So I don't understand, where did you get this information that the slavery in Africa was some kind of...
I forgot the name of the book.
Where did you get the information that the slavery in Africa was some kind of mercy? They sold their own people.
Well, we're not talking. We're not
and
talking
people
about
who they conquered into slavery.
But what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, it wasn't for economics. It wasn't a business situation. It wasn't a bit like when the Europeans and the Arabs got involved with it, then it became an economic situation, and now you're forever going to be this person's property. You know what I mean? Before wait a minute. Let me finish.
Okay.
Because you asked me the question.
Hey, let me finish.
You asked me the question. So, may I finish?
I was quiet. You flipping me this time, though, brother. I was talking, and when I said something you didn't like, you started talking. I couldn't finish.
Oh no, I thought you was asking me a question. I apologize. I thought you was asking.
It was a rhetorical question. It was a rhetorical question.
I'm sorry, sir.
My point is, brother, Black people created slavery.
Of course.
Have you ever heard of that?
Of course. I just explained that to you. Yeah.
Okay. It was nothing merciful about that.
Okay. I'm saying the origin of it.
But you're spinning a narrative. You're spinning a narrative that slavery became brutal when white people got involved.
I didn't say that. What I said was you became first a piece of forever being somebody's property, regardless of what the situation. Regardless.
Do you know who the first people who owned a Black person as property for life was in America? Do you know that?
You said it was a Black person. You said that.
It was the first person, the first human being to own a Black person for life in America was a Black man. So I'm about to pull my braids out. We're gonna have to have another.
Wait. So what you're saying is, okay, let me see if I understand what you're saying. You're saying this one Black man who was the first Black man to own slaves, therefore,
no, not the first.
A bad deal for Black people, and they should just pull themselves up on their bootstraps.
He was not the first Black person to own slaves. Let's get this correct.
In America.
It wasn't called America. It was called the colonies at this time. We have to use the correct language. Okay. The United States didn't exist.
Okay.
What you and I know as the United States did not exist at this time. Okay. This was the British colonies.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So
oh, you're breaking up, sis. Breaking up bad.
This man came from Africa.
Okay. I'm listening to you. You're breaking up though. You might need to drop off and come back on. You're breaking up bad. You're breaking up real bad.
How do I sound now?
Now you sound pretty good.
Am I still breaking up?
No, not now.
Okay, I'm gonna hold the phone just like this.
Okay.
Okay. um, I really don't know how to explain this properly. Anthony Johnson was an African man. They didn't call each other black at that time.
Okay.
He was from Angola, a
Okay.
country in Africa. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. I'm gonna hold the phone just like this, because whenever I get excited, I move the phone around.
All right.
Okay. Now, in the colonies, kind of like right now, you can own what you pay for. Now, Anthony Johnson wasn't always a free man who had he had over 100, he had about 168 slaves.
Okay.
But he wasn't always a free man. He also was a slave, but he served his time and was able to go ahead, and then he turned around and bought land and bought also human slaves. Now, if it was about racism and he's surrounded by all these white people, how could he turn around and then himself buy over 100 acres of land and then put black and white? He married a white woman. If it was about racism, how could that be? And see, the answers are so buried there. But black people, even today,
Breaking up bad. Breaking up bad, sis.
Conversation we see
you breaking up bad, sis. You breaking up bad. You breaking up bad again.
Feel stuck on this
breaking up bad.
Racism thing. Hear me?
I tell you what, sis. Why don't we do this? Why don't we come back and talk about this at another time? Because right when you get to the good part, you start breaking up.
Okay.
So let's do that. Because let me go ahead and shut this down. Because I definitely need to talk to you about it, and I got too many other questions, and we're just gonna be sitting here with you breaking up, and I don't want that. I want you to be able to clearly say what you got to say. But maybe maybe the way we got it going on right now, it's just not working. And we don't have that many people in the chat. So I tell you what we do. We'll come back and we'll reschedule this. How about that? How about that? Sis, can you hear me? Oh, Sister Wanda, she's breaking up. We can't hear you, Sister Wanda. If you're talking, we can't hear you. So what I'm gonna do, Sister Wanda, I'm gonna pull you down, and you're gonna come back, and we're gonna finish this conversation later. All right, y'all. I think what I'm gonna do, I've done 2 hours and 45 minutes on Dr. Martin Luther King. I didn't even get into all the questions that I wanted to ask because for whatever reason, me and Sister Wanda got into it. That's my sister. I love her so much. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask before I go out of here. Is there anybody that have a question? I put the link out there. I think I'll put it out again before I shut it down. But I put it out there. Does anybody have any questions? I know she was talking about some things. I was talking about some things. Who's right? Is Sister Wanda right? She might be right. I was talking about some things. Am I right? See, my vision is that racism, it has nothing to do with color. It has nothing to do with a predisposed genetic thing. In other words, a hatred it's just a competition. It's just like if you was in a race, a street race or a foot race at a school or something, you'd have a uniform on, and the other person would have a different uniform on, and the other person next to that person would have a different uniform on, and so on and so forth. That's what racism is. Racism is a competition. It's a competition for resources by specific groups, and that's exactly what it is. So, but within racism, there is classism within the racism, And this is what I was trying to explain to Sister Wanda, but she was trying to explain to me some things too, and I'm listening to her. But I could see that, her feelings was getting more involved with the situation than actually, her breaking down the information to me. And I love that about her, is that she gets she'll get into it. So but we're gonna have her back, and I'm gonna just talk to just her and just have her just be the panelist here, and have her be here to talk about some of these issues. But I just want to take time out of my day. I don't know about y'all, but I want to take time out of my day to put some respect on this man's name, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Put some respect on this man's name. He was a warrior. He was a soldier. He was an intellectual. He was a real man. He had real issues. Like the rest of us, he had real issues and real concerns, just like the rest of us. Ain't nobody perfect out here. Ain't no chicken wings on nobody's back. We all out here trying to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And in the midst of the situation that we may be in, we may be faced with. All right. So don't trip. Don't trip. I thank you, Dr. Martin Luther King, for all your service and everything you did for us. And we appreciate you, man. You know what I'm saying? You did so much for so many. You know what I mean? And you did so much for so many. And many people don't even recognize you as the catalyst for a lot of the good that they got going on in their life. So we appreciate you, Dr. King. We appreciate you. We appreciate your family for being there and withstanding that situation with you. You know what I mean? And so we want to thank you and give you a great round of applause. That's all we can give you at this point. We can't really give you nothing, but we can definitely put some respect on your name and make sure your name is not tainted. And if anybody comes and try to taint your name on this platform, they're gonna get a biscuit, because we're gonna definitely get with their program. Okay, we don't let warriors go down and get talked about. Even if we disagree with their platform and their position on a few things, we ain't gonna let nobody come in here and attack none of our great warriors, right? All right. So anyway, this was we wanted to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King. Yesterday was his birthday, and don't just listen to a speech of his. Try to live by what he was trying to get us all to live by. Not for us to kiss nobody's ass, but for us to just be able to walk among each other without having all these issues. So we have an understanding about each other, black and white and red and yellow and whatever else is out there. We be able to walk, just just commiserate with each other without having all these different issues. All right, because that's what it's about. If we're gonna live in peace, then we're gonna have to be able to commiserate with each other without having all these issues. All right. All right, don't forget your little brother, Dr. Martin Luther King. Don't forget your brother. He did so much, and he put up with so much, and he dealt with so much, and he took it like a soul. He stood tall. He stood tall. Don't let nobody tell you he didn't stand tall. He stood tall. Would you stand tall if they firebombed your house? Would you stand tall if they calling your house, threatening you? They was slashing your tires and emptying your gas tank. I don't know. You need to think about that next time you start talking crazy about our brother, Dr. Martin Luther King. Uh, rest in power, brother. Rest in power. All right, y'all. The rest of y'all, I'll see y'all later. Peace.